Hey everybody, it's the History Teacher. In this episode, we'll be looking at the attacks of September 11th, 2001, and why they happened. On Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, 19 men boarded 4 airplanes in Washington, D.C., Newark, New Jersey, and Boston, Massachusetts. These men were members of Al-Qaeda, a terrorist organization self-described as Muslim. The plan they were about to execute had been in development since January 2000. Between 7:59 a.m. and 8:20 a.m., 3 of the planes had taken off. The 4th, Flight 93 in Newark, had been delayed and it departed at 8:40 a.m. About 20 minutes into each flight, the Al-Qaeda teams used box cutters to kill the pilots and hijack the planes, killing and wounding several passengers and flight attendants in the process. Each hijacking group included one member who had been trained as a pilot at an American flight school. At 8:46 a.m., the terrorists flew American's Flight 11 into the top of the North Tower of the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan, killing everyone on the plane, hundreds in the building, and trapping hundreds more above the impact zone. While television cameras were trained on the situation at the North Tower, United Airlines Flight 175 was flown into the South Tower, resulting in the deaths of all on board and hundreds in the building. The impact in the South Tower was at a lower level than in the North Tower, and all stairways were destroyed except for one which was badly damaged. Consequently, more people were trapped above the damaged area in the South Tower than in the North Tower. At 9:37 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77 was flown into the headquarters of the U.S. Defense Department in Arlington, Virginia, the Pentagon, killing all on board and 125 people in the building. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed. At 10:28 a.m., the North Tower collapsed. 2,753 people were killed in the World Trade Center attacks, including more than 200 police officers and firefighters. After United Airlines Flight 93 from Newark was hijacked, passengers learned from loved ones by telephone about the attacks on New York and Washington. Realizing that the hijackers intended to crash the plane into a building, the passengers decided to attack the hijackers. The plane's recovered cockpit voice recorder reveals that the passengers had overpowered the hijackers located in the cabin and were struggling with the hijackers in the cockpit at the moment the plane crashed into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. By fighting back, the passengers thwarted the hijackers from executing their plan, which, we later learned, was to fly the plane into the Capitol building or the White House. 2,996 people were murdered in the attacks, and hundreds more were injured or exposed to conditions that would cause later and long-term illness. Victims were from 62 countries. Why did this happen? President George W. Bush told Americans that Americans were attacked because the terrorists, quote, hated our freedom, but the terrorists themselves had another explanation. In 1996, Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, issued a fatwa, or Islamic religious ruling, entitled Declaration of War Against the Americans Occupying the Land of the Two Holy Places. Because this document encourages followers to attack Americans, the United States, and its interests, it's considered bin Laden's declaration of war against the United States. According to bin Laden, Al-Qaeda attacked the U.S. not because it hated our freedom, but because of the American military presence in the Muslim Holy Land of Saudi Arabia, American support of Israel in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and American involvement in Muslim affairs in the Middle East, which bin Laden believed resulted in hardship, despotism, and instability for the people living in that region. Although nearly 15 years have passed since the attacks, the consequences of September 11th are evident in the violence and instability in Iraq and Syria, the rise of the so-called Islamic State, the anxiety and strife in Afghanistan, the enhanced influence of Iran, and in the surge of terrorist attacks in Europe. In the United States, the residue of September 11th is manifested by a growing national security state in the name of freedom, by the relatively recent use of torture against war prisoners, by the indefinite detention of people without charge, and by costly, ceaseless, undeclared, and often secret wars conducted all over the world. All right. This has been a look at the events of September 11th, 2001. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.